Awesome, awesome. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to our Reflections live broadcast. And today I have the amazing Nobukhosi Dlamini with me. So firstly, I just want to say welcome, Nobukhosi. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks you so much, Candice. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I think just to tell you a little bit more about Nobukhosi before we get into it. So, of course, our topic for today is we're going to be discussing women in tech. And Nobukhosi is a woman in tech. So, of course, she's going to be sharing some awesome insights from that perspective. But I think just to tell you a little bit more about her, for those of you who don't know her too well. So, Nobukhosi Dlamini is a multi-award-winning tech entrepreneur. And she's been working in the tech industry for about 15 years. She is the founder of a company called Bahati Tech, and she's going to be telling us a little bit more about Bahati Tech a little bit later on. And it is a data protection company. And then also, ladies and gentlemen, it says here that she's also the founder of the Gift Foundation, as well as she's the founder of the Gift Foundation, which is an NPO that aims to make fintech an accessible career choice for girls and women. So you can see she's really all about empowering women and girls in the area of tech. And she's received various accolades, and I'm just going to mention a few here. Her most recent was the Eisenhower Fellow 2020, UK Africa Female Founder 2020, Tech Woman Alumni 2019, Inspiringly 50 2019, and the list just goes on. And also she had an awesome opportunity in January 2020, this year still. She spoke at the inaugural UK Africa Investment Summit, which was hosted in London. And there she used that opportunity to advocate investment funds for female entrepreneurs across Africa, which is really awesome. So I'm also going to ask her just to share a little bit about that experience a little bit later on. But I think just for us to get into it today, Nobukhosi, just tell us a little bit more about you. So who is Nobukhosi?
Oh my goodness, that is such an interesting question. I'm always also trying to find out who is Nobukhosi. But I'm a tech entrepreneur, as you've said. I've been in tech for about 15 years, and it's become more a passion than a job, than a career. So I grew up, loving solving problems, solving puzzles. And I discovered this career, and I thought, this is great. This is something which not only is something that I'd like to do as a job, but also in my spare time, I find myself doing things that have to do with tech. So I'm here. I live in cold and windy Cape Town, and but I travel all over the world, and I really have worked a lot in Africa, where I've seen actually the tech landscape, and there's a lot of talent, especially amongst women. African women are really tenacious, and they're bold in going out there and trying new things and breaking into new frontiers. So being in this industry is very exciting, especially when you do meet women, not just from around South Africa, but from around the continent, who are really pioneers in the individual fields, women from rural backgrounds who are bringing tech into their community to improve the communities. So those are the things that I'm passionate about, and I love working with people. And so I found myself carving a career in this industry and creating a space where I can bring together both my training, but also my passion for making an impact and a difference in my community, which is what I'm doing right now.
That's awesome, Nobukhosi. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that's really amazing. And You know, I worked for a tech company some years ago. So before I launched into business on a full-time basis, my last role of employment was with Microsoft. And, you know, there's so many, I mean, I still have contact with a lot of my colleagues that I used to engage with, you know, at my previous company as well as the industry. And I can tell you that there's a lot of women that are rising up and, you know, they're starting to pioneer the way forward in technology, which is really awesome, and well done for being one of those women. So that's amazing. And now, are you married at the moment, Nobukhosi? Do you have children? I mean, you say you're traveling, you love traveling, you say you've been into Africa. So I'm assuming that there isn't anyone else at home waiting whilst you're traveling, or do you have that experience?
I have two furry babies. So I have two dogs, which are my babies.
Oh, awesome.
So those are the people that wait for me when I'm traveling.
Oh, great stuff. Awesome. So, yes, I can imagine. So, seeing that, you know, I remember before I got married, so I've been married now for, you know, almost 3 years. So it's just over 2.5 years. And I mean, I got married very late. And prior to that, you know, I used to be, I don't know if you can call it a workaholic but I mean, I had all of this time and, you know, putting all of that time into your business, you know, into your various initiatives that you're involved in, your various projects. And, you know, when you now get to that stage where you have to transition over into marriage, and you're so used to always having your own time and, you know, doing all of these amazing things, it does become a different ball game. So I think for yourself, you know, one doesn't really realize, you know, how blessed you are also to have all of the time, you know, until your situation changes a bit and you now need to start incorporating, you know, other people into your space. But I think that's one of the reasons why you've been able to do such amazing work and have all of these accolades behind your name. I think it's because you've been putting a lot of your energy and efforts into actually growing your business and also pioneering the way forward. So I just want you to tell us a little bit more about your business, because you've spent a lot of time working on your business, and I want you to share with us really, what does your business do and how does your business add value, you know, to other organizations?
So my business is a data protection company, as you've correctly mentioned. And we help companies to manage data. You know, data, people say it's the new gold, and everybody's looking for ways in which they can use data. So firstly, we help organizations to use data properly, but also in a responsible manner. And nowadays, there are all these laws that have come out around data protection, for example, the GDPR, the POPI Act, and so on, which govern how companies can or cannot use data, and the different rights that we have as citizens in terms of how companies actually use our information. So that's great. However, a lot of companies still struggle because it's one thing to understand what the law says. It's something totally different to translate that into an operational environment that hasn't prioritized those principles for many years, especially for companies that have been around for a long time. You know, you walk into a large organization, some organizations have been formed through mergers and acquisitions, and you ask them, where does your data sit? They'll probably tell you everywhere. So we really help them to translate. We bring both the legal knowledge around data protection as well as the technical know-how, because we are a tech company at the end of the day, as well as operational experience to really make data protection a practical implementation into an organization. So we do that consulting. We also provide tools, technical tools that people can use around data management tools. And we also do a lot of training, especially for small businesses but also for large businesses, people who are just trying to figure out, what do I need to know? What is data protection? How does it affect me? So we do a lot of that training, and we also do a lot of cybersecurity consulting and training. Cybersecurity is a subset of data protection, because as part of protecting data, you have to make sure it's secure technically. So we do a lot of that training as well.
Awesome. And do you work with small businesses as well, or do you normally just focus on the larger organizations?
So we do work with small businesses, as I mentioned, especially around training. So we do offer a lot of support, because it's needed, especially nowadays. With the pandemic, a lot of people who had, let's say, stores, physical stores, are now trying to pivot to launch their online stores, and it might be people who are not necessarily tech founders. They're not tech savvy. And I always say, when you had a physical shop, security was top of mind, because you wanted to protect whatever inventory you had or your practice that you had physically in your organization. So when you move to the online space, that mindset of protecting your business and protecting your customers has to follow through, because in your physical business, you would have your alarm system, your security guard perhaps at the door, you might have cameras and so on. And when people launch websites, sometimes they just forget about security. The internet it appears to be a friendly place, but unfortunately it's not. There's a lot of crime that happens on the internet, and a lot of people fall prey to that. And unfortunately for small businesses, when they experience an online attack, if they have a breach, for example, statistically, small businesses just don't survive, because the impact to the business is really devastating.
Yes. And I mean, that's a very important point that you mentioned there, where you say if you have a physical, building or shop, or you put in a lot of effort to make sure that the right level of security is actually put in place. And I mean, and then if you think about your business, and I mean, I work with small businesses and medium-sized businesses, and also I'm thinking about my own business at this stage, is that, how good is your security really? So I think this is a very important element, that you are bringing to the table here, is to say that we need to make sure that, because everything is done almost online as well, and we need to make sure that those online platforms also have the right level of security in place, because of course, on some of our platforms, we also have our clients' data that we are working with. So it's important to make sure that we put in the right level of security there as well. So that's really important. And I just want to acknowledge a few people. So some people have come online. I just want to just say hi to everyone out there. So I see you, Dylan. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Cindy, Iris, and also our friend Zola is also online, Nobukhosi, so she's joined today. She never listens to my reflections interviews. This is the first one that I believe she's actually listening to. So yeah, no, you in for a treat today, Zoe, so that's good. And I see there's some more of you that are online. So thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, if you do have any questions or if you have any comments, please put it in our chat box. And then at the end of our talk, we will give you then an opportunity, or I will give Nobukhosi also an opportunity to answer some of those questions. So please feel free, if you've got any specific questions around, data protection, now's your time really to ask those questions. We've got the expert with us today, and she'll be able to respond to those. Awesome. So thank you so much. And then I think, Nobukhosi, the next question that I really want us to go into is that, as women in tech, I remember when I started my journey, also my career, because I was also in the ICT space, starting my career from an entry-level position and having, to work myself forward and move myself forward wasn't always an easy thing to do, in terms of advancing your career and moving forward. So I want you to talk to us a little bit about, some of the challenges that you've encountered within your career, and then also, of course, moving into, owning your own tech business. And just share with us some of the challenges that you've encountered and how you've been able to overcome some of those challenges. And I think the reason why I'm asking this is because I know that there are women out there who are also wanting to move into, the entrepreneurial side of being in a tech business, and they may have encountered some challenges already, and they don't necessarily know, what is the way forward. And I'm hoping that in us having this conversation today, that we'll be able to share some insights and guidance that can also help those other female entrepreneurs be able to move those tech business forward.
No, definitely. So one of the first challenges that you face as a woman when you enter into tech is, there's not a lot of people who look like you, especially when you're a Black woman.
Yes.
Certainly when I started, it was like that. So the culture has been established and is there for a while, and it's catered for people other than yourself. So you sort of trying to squeeze yourself into an existing space where you sort of don't feel really comfortable because you are not the norm. You sort of are the other. So it's and those that culture then brings a whole lot of other challenges with it, where as women sometimes we feel overlooked, or unheard, or we feel like your voice is not heard when you try to raise certain things. It sometimes you get men who will explain, you'll have some guy repeat what you've just said, and it's accepted when it comes from them rather than from yourself. So there are those challenges, just because women are really underrepresented, and the culture is one, is certainly in the high tech space. It's a very bro culture. I know there's been instances where I've worked in some companies, and on my first day I asked, where's the ladies? And everybody looks around like, where is the ladies? Because they've never had to cater for a woman in the building, So, and I'm hoping that things are changing,
Yes.
certainly, but as women, we come into these spaces, and you have to really create your own niche, your own space, and find your own voice in the midst of all that, and be able to confidently articulate your skills and your knowledge, because we do bring value, we do bring perspective. So the majority of our population are women. So whatever products are being built by tech people, they're building them for people who look like you, who think like you. So that there's that value that you bring, and you bring that diversity. And I often say when I mentor young people that don't undermine yourself just because you think you lack experience and so on. Your life journey has value. What you bring to the table is that life experience, what you know already so far about the world. You've experienced it probably much differently from everybody else. So that in itself is very valuable for the organization, because you bring a different way of thinking, which strengthens the organization or your team. At the end of the day, they're better off that you're there rather than a bunch of people who think alike, who've all had the same life experiences. So there are challenges, but as women, we have to be confident to rise up and say, actually, this is my story, and this is what I bring to the table, and be able to negotiate your way in those environments.
For sure. No, that's so true. And I mean, I remember some of my experiences. One of the challenges that I found that, I encountered was that it's almost like you had to prove yourself that you are, worthy of that role, that you can do the work, that you are the expert in that area. So as women, we find that we have to work a little bit harder, just to prove ourselves, and to show that we are competent and we can deliver in that area. And I mean, I was aware of it, early in my career already, because I started my journey in IT, and I really moved forward from there onwards. So I've always had to go through those various challenges as I went from organization to organization. You always had to kind of prove yourself a little bit more, But I realized that, and I think I built a very strong uh, sense of confidence early in my journey. And like you just said now, is that you need to have that level of confidence where you know that the knowledge that you are sharing, you are bold about confidently sharing that knowledge, and you know what you're talking about. And that's what I also had to do within my role, was to make sure that I'm skilled in the area that I'm talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about, and just make sure that I continue building on my knowledge base, so that I can, confidently share that level of competency that's required for whatever role I was delivering. So I think that's one of the important things. I found that, the more knowledge you get about a particular area, or about your job or your role, whatever it is that you do in your business, the more knowledge you get, and the more you grow in that particular area, the more confident you come in delivering. So I think it's
Yeah.
important for us to also make sure that we build our knowledge base there, so that we can also confidently deliver in our various roles.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time we work hard to convince ourselves that we worthy to be there, not because we weren't worthy before we were working hard. So it all starts with the mind. When you start to believe that you are a valuable contributor, and as in IT, well, it's a journey of learning every single day. I'm still studying now, and I'll probably study until I die, because when you are in university and you choose the tech space, you really, by the time you graduate, everything that you've learned is obsolete. So it's about learning how to learn. It's a lifelong learning journey, because the tech changes so rapidly. Um, so lifelong learning is part of the job, really. If you're not learning, then you shouldn't be in this industry. But a lot of the time, that hard work is just us as women trying to prove to ourselves, rather than anybody else, that actually I do deserve this. I have worked hard for this. And we need to stand up for ourselves, but also stand up for each other. So if you see a woman who's being overlooked, who's trying to raise a point and nobody in the room is listening to her, stop the conversation and say, I think she has something to say. Give each other that support, and build that sisterhood, because we all go through the same challenges as women in the industry.
And you share a very, you share a very important point there. And I think that's so important, is that as women, we really need to find ways of supporting one another. So, instead of, trying to compete against one another, find ways of how we can actually support one another, build one another up. And, every person is unique. And I believe, like you said, it also starts with what is your belief about you, and accepting who you are and your abilities. And, when you have that level of trust and confidence in place, I think it's also important for us to support one another. And I think we still need more of that. I mean, I visited some of the previous companies that I worked for, where they were starting some amazing women initiatives within the organization, to try and get women to support one another more, work together, much better, and all of that collaboration happening. And in some of the organizations that I've visited, it's almost like some of the learnings have dismantled. It's almost like they've walked away from that experience. And the majority of them have actually, for some reason, it's something that they just continue, and you just continue working, and it's almost like we're still not there yet, in terms of supporting one another, and lifting one another up. And I think we need to really get to a place where we allow everyone to shine, because everyone can shine. And I think that's something that we as women need to embrace, and that we need to accept about one another. And I think we can be so much more powerful if we start collaborating, and we start working together and doing things together.
Yeah, and what we also need to just come to terms with is all the women that you see in boardrooms are actually very exceptional. For women to make it into those environments, they have to be really extraordinary. The bar for women to access the education, the jobs, the promotions, and so on is much higher than it is for men. So if you walk into a room and you see a woman, just understand that that woman must be really incredible, much more incredible than the men in the room. And maybe men won't appreciate me saying that, but I find that it is true, because women have to work a lot harder to earn things, especially in the tech space. And if the more of us that are there, we can support each other to access more resources, to access more support. So there really isn't a need for us to compete with each other. We really need to complement each other. And also, the more women that are there who are showing their brilliance, women brilliance, female brilliance is going to become the norm. People are going to just accept, if a woman walks in, that she must be really great. And that's how we change the narrative around, women we don't really have a lot of women in this space, or women don't choose these careers. To actually, we've had a lot of women in these careers, and they've all done really well. So it must then follow that, women can do these kind of jobs. So I really never want to be the only woman in any space, because there's no value overall for the greater community by being the first or the only woman to have done this. You want to have a tribe of women to walk into a room with you, because that's exactly when you change the narrative, you change people's perceptions about women. Every time I hear, oh, she's the only woman to have done this, it sort of makes me feel a little bit sad, because what does that say about women in general, that they can't do this, So you really want to bring along as many women as possible and help them to succeed, so that people start to accept that actually, you know what, women are good software engineers, or women are good product owners, or women are good project managers. Look at all the women we've had who are doing these jobs. And the flip side is the exceptionalism mindset, which says, oh, she's the only woman to have been a product owner, which is not really a good story, in my opinion.
Yes, no, for sure. And you're right. I mean, what you mentioned about, if you do see that woman in the boardroom, I mean, it's taken her a lot, to get into that specific role. I mean, it didn't come easy. It took a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of persistence, and, really pushing and moving her goals forward. So you're right. And I mean, also in the same breath, I have to share that I have seen amazing women, though, within the tech industry, that have been leading the way forward. And I mean, you're one of those women as well. I mean, you started your Gift Foundation really with the main objective to make fintech an accessible career choice for girls and women, so you're all about uplifting women. And I think that's the important thing, is that we do have some role models out there that are leading the way, that are pioneering the way. And I think for those women who are listening, to our conversation today, I just want to say to you, well done. for achieving the level of success that you've achieved, and also well done for helping other women to also achieve success in their various roles and careers. So I think that's just a shout out to all of the women who are doing amazing work out there. And Nobukhosi, you've really achieved also, you've got various accolades behind your name, and you've also achieved a level of great success, as part of your experience and as part of your journey. And if you just had to look at all of those successes that you've achieved, what would you say is the biggest factor or the biggest reason why you have been able to achieve the level of success that you've achieved to date?
I think the biggest factor is belief. If you believe in something, and you believe it's possible, and you believe you can do it, firstly, you need to believe it can be done. And then you need to believe that you can do it, because some people believe it can be done, but they doubt whether they are the right person to do it. So belief is always the two steps that I look at it. Firstly, it can be done, and I'm the right person to do it. So there's nothing that can stand in the way of belief. If you really have faith in yourself, and you have faith in God, or whatever it is that you believe in, you can face all the challenges that exist out there, but you will overcome them eventually. There really is no obstacle that can stand in the way of belief. And hard work, dedication, persistence, all those things come as a result of you believing. If you doubt whether you can do something, you're not gonna invest as much time and effort into it, because you're really not sure if this is the thing. You're constantly questioning it. So yes, hard work, yes, having grit, holding on, but at the core of it is just the power of belief, that unwavering. I don't even like to use the word faith, because sometimes people question faith. For me, belief is a stronger word, because it really talks to something unshakable, something that even if everything seems like it's not gonna happen, you just know it will happen.
For sure. No, that is so true. Really believing in yourself and in your ability, and trusting that God has got a plan and a purpose for your life, and that I believe that God has got a plan and a purpose for each and every one of us. And there's a specific journey that He set out for each and every one of us. And you know my personal motto is that if you pursue your dreams, you will love your purpose. And that's what I ultimately believe, is that all those giftings, all those dreams, all those desires that is put on the inside of us, they are there for a reason. And if they are if they are on the inside of you, that means that those things need to come out, they need to be expressed, and they need to be shared. And we all have various paths that we follow, but it starts with believing that God has placed those wonderful things on the inside of you, and that in trusting Him and in doing, you will be able to achieve the success that is set out for you. I like this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes. I use it a lot in the presentations that I've done, and it's by Zig Ziglar, and it says that success comes to those who do, not to those who wait. And I really believe in that. If we want to achieve success in our lives, we're going to have to become doers. We're going to have to become action takers. I know that it's taken you effort, it's taken you time to get to where you are today. It didn't just happen like that. You had to put in the work, you had to put in the effort. And I think that's something that we need to also understand as women entrepreneurs, and as entrepreneurs on the whole, is that we have to actively pursue our dreams.
Yeah.
Pursue our dreams if we want to achieve success.
Yeah, and you talk about action. I think there's a quote that says, "Show me your faith, and I'll show you my actions." If somebody says, "Show me your faith," like, where is it? Is it in your pocket? Is it in your handbag? Whereas, I can show you I believe, by what I'm doing. You don't have to
Exactly.
ask me, do you believe? You can look at what I'm doing and you can know for sure that I believe because of what I'm doing. So action is the manifestation of faith.
Yes.
If you're not taking action, there's no belief there.
Yes, no, for sure. No, I think you and I definitely on the same page there. And then I think we've also gone into the next question, because this is also a question that I just wanted you just to, share and elaborate on, is that if you can maybe just give me three of your top three success habits. So if you could share with us, what are your top three success habits that, keeps you going and helps you to continue achieve success? You've mentioned doing, but I mean, if you can maybe just elaborate a bit.
So my key one is health and wellness, because they say what your health is your wealth. So if you're not healthy, both physically in your body and also in your mind, there's really very little that you can do, especially as an entrepreneur where you're building a small business, and everything relies on you being able to work, to think clearly, to think properly, to solve problems. So I do focus on healthy eating, just well-being, a bit of exercise, not as much as I should. But meditating, making sure that I look after my body, but also I look after my mind. I think that is the foundation of everything. A lot of people lose their health chasing success. And at the end of the day, once you get the money and you've lost your health, um, you can't really enjoy the benefits of everything you've done. The other one is, which is also related to nutrition, or at least the way I look at it, is feeding my mind. So constantly reading. I read a lot. I've been reading since I was probably 4 years old. So I have a huge collection. And nowadays, it's amazing because you have audiobooks. You can listen to some of the really great books without actually opening it. So and that also links back to the lifelong learning that I spoke about. So I'm constantly studying, I'm constantly signing up for new courses and so on. And I think it's a mindset that we have to let especially the teenagers or youngsters understand that learning doesn't stop when you leave high school or when you graduate and you get your degree and like, woof, I can throw my books away now. Learning is continuous because life is changing so rapidly. Look at 2019 versus 2020. It's a totally different life that we're living now, a totally different world. And we have to study to see, okay, how do I now thrive in this new environment? Because if you think things are going to go back to the way they were, chances are it's not going to happen. You need to find out where's the world going and how do I become a part of that. Otherwise, you get left behind. So continuously learning. And there's so many options nowadays. Like I do a lot of online courses like Udemy, Coursera, and so on. And also LinkedIn has a lot of really good courses that they offer. So I take a lot of knowledge by observing or listening to people. So having video instructors really helps me because I'm like, okay, if I hear you say something, I'm not gonna forget it. I'm that
Yes.
kind of person. If I read something, I might need to read it 3 or 4 times to really understand it. But I really love video because if I hear it and I see you saying it, that's it. I've got it. It's embedded in my mind. So studying and staying healthy, both physically, emotionally, mentally, I think that's a core foundational success habit.
For sure. No, you're so right. And I mean, especially, you know, your second point around personal development and ongoing learnings. I think that's also so important. So we've got so Zola's just agreeing with you then. She says that health and wellness is key. We need to take care of ourselves first. Yes. So, and that's so important. So it starts with taking care of ourselves. And then, like you say, Nobukhosi, it's about really personal development. And you know, online platforms have made it so easy for us. You know, like you say, there's so many different online platforms that one can just tap into. And I think to remain relevant in our various industries, we have to make sure that we continue sharpening our skills. We have to make sure that we continue getting the learnings in terms of what's happening within our industry, what's happening within our space in terms of what we are doing. So as entrepreneurs, we always have to make sure that we are following this journey and pursuing this journey of personal development and investing in us, because as we're investing in us, we're investing in our businesses and we're investing in our staff and the broader communities, because if we can become more successful through applying our learnings, I mean, you know, it just has a ripple effect. So but it starts with us, the individual. So that's so awesome. So thanks for sharing that. I really agree with you 100% there. And then, you know, one of your accolades that really stood out for me was the fact that you attended the UK Africa conference earlier this year. And you were selected as, you know, one of the female entrepreneurs representing Africa to go and, you know, basically advocate SME development and especially within the female space across Africa. So just share a little bit on that experience with me. You know, how did you get invited to that space and what was the main reason why you took that platform, you know, in terms of advocating there?
So that was really a great opportunity for me to share that space. It was a platform where, well, the Investment Summit had a lot of industry leaders, a lot of heads of states were there. So a lot of presidents from around Africa were speaking there, as well as the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, was speaking there as well. And they felt that they needed to have the voice of entrepreneurs to be represented there, because sometimes these discussions are really high level, where you have like the big banks, for example, speaking there. You might have the World Bank and so on, and you have the global leaders, but you don't really hear the people that they're speaking about. So you don't hear the voice of the actual entrepreneurs coming through on those platforms. And I got invited because I had mentioned to somebody that I would love to speak about women in business and so on. And I thought that she would probably recommend me for, you know, some of the local conferences, you know, some of the smaller conferences. And I said, you know, if you hear of something, let me know. And that just goes back to what I was saying about curating a network and having people around you who support you and so on. And the very first conference she recommended me for was this conference. And I thought, oh my goodness, maybe, you know, I should have been a little bit more clear that I wanted to like speak to smaller audiences, maybe 50 people. And not thousands of people on the first time, you know. But I thought, you know what, God wants this to happen. This is an opportunity, and I'm going to take it, because I'm not just going there for my own benefit, but I'm going there also to speak on behalf of women. And I know how sometimes women feel when you have like these panels where it's just men talking about things that affect women and they don't have their voice represented there. I often get frustrated with those kind of panels myself, where I think, oh, but you're talking about women, but there's no woman on the panel. So being invited there, I really took it up and I said, I am going to go there and speak confidently about women, about African women in particular, because across the world, Africa is the one place where women are more likely to go into business for themselves. And sometimes that's by necessity, because, you know, women generally more poor than men on the continent, and they have to look after their families. But I think there's something about African women where they really have high ideals for their families. They have big dreams for their children, and they want to achieve great things. So they have in themselves intrinsically all the characteristics of what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. They have the drive, they have the why, they have the ambition, and they have the hard work. And sometimes all they need is just that support, that backing, to say, you know what, we're gonna back you, we're gonna give you the money to go do it. Because majority of funding goes to men, unfortunately. Even today, very few women actually get venture capital funding. It always goes to men, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But I think we actually have to say, you know, women are the ones who can build successful businesses, not only successful businesses, but meaningful businesses. So the women that I come across, not only in South Africa, but across continents, they are building businesses that solve a community challenge, that have an impact. You know, they're not starting just vain businesses just so they can make a quick buck. They're actually starting businesses that solve a community problem. So I think not only are you building a sustainable business, but you are addressing challenges that communities are facing. So I always say you get more bang for your buck when you back a woman, because you know, you're not just building a business, there's a greater impact around her business that you need to look into as well. So the money goes much further than just going into one small business.
Yes, no, but that's amazing. I mean, just to have that opportunity and that platform, you know, to share with, you know, possible investors who could invest in female-owned businesses across Africa. I mean, that's amazing. And I really hope that it was successful, and that, you know, there was some investors out there who actually see the value and the importance of investing in women entrepreneurs across Africa. And you're right, a lot of times, you know, our women entrepreneurs start business as a means of necessity. You know, it's something that they need to do in order to move their financial goals forward. So no, well done for that. I mean, one of the things that I'm also just, you know, reminded of as you were just sharing is that, you know, as part of some of the workshops that I do, you know, I always ask people, what problem are you solving? You know, so you want to start a business, but, you know, what problem are you solving? What solution, what value is your business bringing about? What value are you adding? And I think that's a very important question. And you touched on it now, is that we need to make sure that as entrepreneurs, we always need to, you know, go back to the basics. And I think just build from there onwards. But awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So we are drawing to a close, Nobukhosi. I'm conscious of time, and I just want to give people an opportunity to ask questions. But I think the last question, or not really question, but if there were just last words that you could leave with the audience today, you know, with entrepreneurs out there, and especially women entrepreneurs and women in tech, what would your last words be to them?
I think for women in tech, I want to say that, you know, really own the space. This is our space. Don't feel like you are the other person, or that you're an outlier. You are. There are a lot more people who look like you, who think like you out there in the world. Whatever product or solution that your company is building, they're building it for people like you. So you bring that value into the organization, and have confidence. By being in the room, you've already overcome a lot of challenges. To be there is an achievement in itself. And for women entrepreneurs, I think, you know what, let's just soldier on. Entrepreneurs are going through a very difficult period right now. But I think we also learning about the new world. So have faith, have belief that you have what it takes to carry your business through this difficult, challenging time, and understand that it will pass. It's not going to last forever. And curate, like I say, those networks, build those communities with people who support you, build those networks, invest in those networks. Sometimes women don't take enough time to invest in relationships. And if you're in business, you need to have strong relationships, because when deals are discussed or decisions are being made, a lot of the times you're not in the room. And if you have strong relationships, you'll have people who advocate for you, who advocate for your business. So build those strong networks, invest in those relationships. You look at men spend a lot of time just hanging out. And what are they doing? They're strengthening the bonds that they have with other men, so that directly reflects on the magnitudes of their success. So as women, we really need to know that it's not just about you working hard in your little corner. You really need to focus on the network, and not just going to cocktail events and saying hi, but actually strengthening and building really, really strong relationships. I think that's going to take our businesses to the next level.
For sure. No, I agree with you. Thank you so much for sharing that, Nobukhosi. And I think at this stage, I'll just mention that Nobukhosi is also made available, free consultation sessions for, some of you who are listening, who are out there, our SME women community. So as we will also be sharing that information with you via our normal distribution in terms of our SME women community. So she has made her services available to consult with you and obviously, guide you in terms of what is the best way forward for you, pursuing data protection and security around that, and all of the other tools and systems that we can use to help us better manage our data. So she will be making herself available. And thank you so much for that, Nobukhosi, for making yourself available, to talk to our SME woman community. And I'll definitely be taking you up on that one as well. So thank you for that. And then I think I'm just going to give people an opportunity. Oh, yes, we've just shared the link. So thank you so much. So one of my team has just shared the link there. So for those of you who would like to obviously have that follow-up consultation with her, the link is in the chat box at the moment. So thank you, Hela, for sharing that. The link is there. Please just connect with her via that link, and then you'd be able to, is that like a booking system? So they would be able to book with you? Okay, so that's a online booking system. So you would be able then to book a session with her and see exactly which slots are available, and then you'd be able to book your session there. So thank you so much for that. I'm just going to ask the audience if there's anyone out there who's got specific questions with regards to what we've discussed, or if there's any last comments that you would like to share, please do include that in the chat box now. I know there's normally a little bit of a delay, but I think whilst we're waiting on that, if you can maybe just share with us, where can people get hold of you, Nobukhosi? So, I mean, share with us your website address. Is there an email that they can maybe contact you at? Are you on social media platforms? So please just share with us how people can get hold of you.
So I have a website. It's nobukhosi.com. It's very easy. So you can see there. I've got my blog, but also there's a form that you can email me, and the email comes directly to me. But I'm on LinkedIn as well. Nobukhosi_Dlamini. You can find me there. You can find me on Facebook. I have a page, Nobukhosi07, on Facebook, and it's the same on Instagram, Nobukhosi07. So, and I do check my social media quite regularly. So, people can connect with me whichever way they wish to.
Okay. Okay. No, thank you for that. So the only thing I don't have from you is then just your social media handles. If you can just share that with me after our interview today, then I can just also add it to the chat box, and then everyone's got that information as well. But we will also share her website address that she's just shared with us, as well as the social media handles we'll make available later today. So I don't thank you. We're just getting some comments that it was a great interview. Thank you so much for that. If there aren't any other questions, I think that concludes it then for today. And if you do have questions and there was a little bit of a time delay, please do put your questions into the chat box, and I will make sure that between myself and Nobukhosi that we actually respond to those questions. But everyone, thank you so much for joining us. And Nobukhosi, thank you so much for joining me on this interview. You shared awesome insights, and I really believe that you've assisted some women in tech. So thank you so much for that.
Thanks so much for having me, Candice.
Awesome. And this is not the last that you'll be seeing of Nobukhosi. So her and I have agreed to continue collaborating going forward. So we are actually in the process of planning an amazing global Women in Business Summit. So please stay connected to us. For those of you who haven't subscribed to our newsletters yet, please do so on our website, www.candicevanwyk.com. Please sign up for our newsletter so that you can also be kept informed of all the amazing things that we're working on, especially around the Global Summit as well. So Nobukhosi will be joining me there as well. And I look forward to collaborating with her going forward and adding more value to our SME women community. So thank you, everyone, and we'll check in next week again. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Thank you, Nobukhosi.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.